We start our adventure with a view of the projection of all galaxies within 8000 km per second in the V8K Redshift catalog. The projection is in supergalactic coordinates, with the plane of the Milky Way slanting at a steep angle across the center and wrapping around the edges. The nearest galaxies are in dark blue and concentrate around the Virgo cluster on the supergalactic equator to the right of center, or around the Fornax cluster in the lower left quadrant. One of the two most prominent filaments is the Pavo-Hindus structure in cyan and yellow that can be followed from near the Virgo cluster across the zone of obscuration, rising increasingly above the equator toward the left. The other most prominent structure is the Perseus species filament in yellow and red, rising at a sharp angle to the extreme left. Where do these galaxies lie in 3 dimensions? That's seen as we transfer galaxies from the 2-dimensional projection to a 3-dimensional cube. The galaxies end up at their positions in redshift space. Kinematic stretching in clusters has been truncated. Positions of galaxies within 3000 km per second have been modified in accordance with a model of galaxy streaming around the Virgo cluster. The Perseus species filament is the prominent structure in the foreground of this view. The complexity of what we are seeing is overwhelming. Let's get grounded by a visit to where we live. We are now approaching the Milky Way, represented by the blue dot. The scene is now centered on the Milky Way, with its entourage of small galaxies and adjacent Andromeda galaxy with its own entourage. Other nearby groups are identified. There are good distance measures for most of the galaxies in this scene. These nearby galaxies are positioned in physical space with positions in velocity coordinates of distance times Hubble constant. We are looking at a cube that extends to 6 megaparsecs. The rotation of this scene allows us to see that most of the galaxies in this local cube lie in a thin plane, the equatorial plane in the supergalactic coordinate system. There is a very empty sector above this plane, the local void. We call the flattened distribution of nearby galaxies the local sheet, and we see that it is a wall bounding the local void.